Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the XFL Fan Zone. And this video is for, I think I'm going to say his name right, Demarius Shelton. You asked for an expansion video on the XFL, so here we go. We're going to do it now. For everyone that wants an expansion after the right away, it is just not going to happen. Vince McMahon has sold enough WWE stock to finance the league on his own, not including the TV money, the merchandise, the ticket sales, and all the other local sponsors and media contracts are coming in, local radio broadcasts, for 3 years. And since he's basing that on 8 teams, it is safe to say we're not going to see expansion no earlier than the 4th season. That's just the way it is. I think if the league is smart, they'll start with the 8 teams they have. They will try to build a TV ratings for these 8 big markets and attendance for these big markets, and then work from there. One of the problems the USFL had, they expanded too fast. They went, I think, where they went from like 12 teams to 18 teams the very next year, from 83, 84, and ended up cutting down like 4 more the following year. So we don't want that problem. If we're going to expand, we're going to do this the smart way. We're not going to do this to expand because a lot of people want a team in their city. I understand everyone wants a team in their city, and I'm from New York, we constantly have teams in our city. So the only time we didn't have a spring football league in our city was the AAF, ironically, and we see how well they did there. They didn't even last a full year. So how will they expand? Where will they expand? Well, good question. I mean, Vince McMahon picked a lot of these cities and venues based on, for when I see success of other leagues, the big markets, and for the purposes of getting a big TV contract. Now, everyone complained about the old TV contract from the AAF, and I get it. You know, CBS Sports Network, premium channel, you had to pay extra for it. The NFL Network. No one thought they would cover AAF games, but they did. Bleacher Report on the internet. They did have a few TNT games, but TNT is not a real good sports network. And CBS main network was going to have a few games, but they went belly up before that could happen. So that explains why they had the TV contract they did. Look at the markets they had. San Antonio, a nice market, but not a big one. San Diego, probably their biggest market, but not big enough to get a good TV contract. Salt Lake City, small city. Birmingham is a small market. Arizona, Tempe, small markets, not Phoenix. What else? Who are the other teams, if I can remember? Memphis, small market. Atlanta, not a big market, but it's not a good sports town. That was your biggest market. Excuse me, it wasn't San Diego, it was Atlanta. That was your biggest market, but it's not a good pro sports market. And I would say it's barely much of a college market, really, except for football. And let's see, who else we had? We had Birmingham, Memphis, and Orlando. Another good market. Not a huge market, a nice decent sized market, but that explains the TV country ahead. XFL has New York, LA, Dallas, Seattle, Tampa, Houston, all big markets, which explains why they got the TV contract the way they did. If you want to be on the main networks, then you have to reach out to those markets. That's business, folks. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And if you want a team to come to your smaller market, we're going to need everyone from around the country to either support this team by TV ratings and to buy merchandise. That is the only way this league is going to survive. And if you're going to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to support the league until I get a team, well, you're part of the problem. If you love football, and if you want a team in places like Memphis or Birmingham, back in San Diego, well, you better support the league now. Listen, I support the AAF, and the closest team to me, I think, was Atlanta, which is about about an 18-hour, 19-hour drive from me. But I watched all 32 games. So if you're gonna want this league to expand, support the teams now. Buy merchandise, watch the games. If you can, if you're fairly close, go to a game. So let's talk about expansion. I can't help to see how Vince McMahon has put this league together. And if you look how he's putting this league together right now, with the cities he's in, with the type of venues he's in, this in itself is going to be an expand how expansion is going to be decided. Let's go over what he has for cities and venues. New York, Seattle, Tampa Bay, St. Louis. 4 NFL-sized stadiums. 3 of them which host NFL teams. 1 is vacant. We'll start with Seattle. Seattle, huge football area. They love their Seahawks and they love their Washington Huskies. If you've ever gone out to Seattle, I think the Huskies are the only one that have a bay of boats where people come and park their boats and they tailgate out there. It's quite a scene. It's pretty awesome, actually. That's the only place I know it's pretty much like that. The closest thing I could think of would be McCovey Cove and AT&T Park where the San Francisco Giants play, where you see all those people in kayaks trying to get the home run bowls, especially when Barry Bonds was sitting out there. But that's a pretty fascinating area, Seattle. But the weather there is mild all year long. If you like New York fall weather from September 21st till the end of October, you'll love Seattle. So I think the fans will support the team they already have. They are pretty much 1 or 2 in attendance and ticket sales, which tells you they're excited about their Dragons. But the weather is beautiful all year long. It's mild. It's nice. You go East Coast, New York City, MetLife Stadium, open air stadium as well, but a very cold site. Now, why did Vince McMahon pick this venue? Well, they say he wanted it. He's hosted a lot of wrestling events at the Continental Airlines Arena, and he did WrestleMania at the old Giant Stadium, and I think at MetLife also. So they have ties together. They gave him a good deal, so he took it. And let's face it, according to the numbers of how the New Jersey Generals did and the New York Hitmen did, the attendance was pretty solid. So there you go. So we have an open air stadium where it's mild, an open air stadium where it's very cold, and you go down to Tampa Bay, we have an open air stadium which is beautiful weather all year in the winter, Tampa Bay. And I was nervous about Tampa as a team in the XFL, but I think they would have gone back to Orlando where Vince was back in 2001, but because the AAF started a year before and they had a team in Orlando, I think they moved over to Tampa Bay for that reason, which I think is a smart move but risky because hypothetically if the AAF was still playing, he'd be competing against the Apollos. But if you look at the attendance of the old Tampa Bay Bandits, 1983, Tampa Bay was second in the league out of 12 teams attendance. They averaged just under 40,000 people in the old Tampa Stadium, 39,896. Second year, they were 2 in attendance out of 18 teams, averaging 46,158. And in the final league of existence, they were number 1 in attendance, averaging 45,220. So, was that the reason why they went to Tampa? Who knows? Why would Tampa go to those games that time of year? The weather is absolutely beautiful in February and March in Florida. And because you have all kinds of transplants living down in Florida, people don't mind going to a game. If you've ever gone to a baseball game or football game or college football game in Florida in September and October and March like I have, If you're not seated by the sun, it is a long day. It is pretty brutal. Even at nighttime, the humidity is pretty bad. And if you're on the sun, like I have been at Marlins games at the old Pro Player Stadium, drink a lot of water. Don't drink soda. You'll dehydrate faster. So I can't help to think that's the reason why they went to Tampa. So we have NFL stadiums, open air, in mild, cold, and warm areas. And of course we have St. Louis. Vacant stadium, but now the sole proprietor of that stadium, and it's a dome, which is good because St. Louis winters, although they don't get as much snow as the people in New York do, the weather gets very, very cold out there. It is brutal, and the wind picks up there. So even if the weather's bad, if you're sitting inside this dome stadium and the people of St. Louis are excited about this team going by the tickets and merchandise sales, very smart move by the XFL to go there. So we have 4 XFL stadiums, NFL size, 3 open air in 3 different climates, and a dome stadium. Now, we also have a stadium that's going to be converted into a football stadium from a baseball park. The old Globe Life Stadium in Texas is going to be home to the Dallas Renegades. Now, Dallas has never had a spring league football from what I can remember. I don't remember the WFL having a team. I was young. The USFL didn't have one. Neither did the World League. I don't remember if the UFL had one. I didn't bother watching the league. And the AAF didn't. But Dallas in Texas in general is a big sports town. But they converted an old baseball stadium. A new one too. It's only 25 years old, and it's a beautiful baseball park. The reason why they moved out of it is because the heat and humidity at a Texas Ranger game at night is unbearable. You go there during a day game, it's even worse. But playing football there in February and March, it will be pretty nice. They are converted to a football stadium. They are going to be the sole proprietor of that stadium. And it will be used for soccer events, but as a full-time proprietor, the Dallas Renegades have their own stadium. They're the only team other than the St. Louis Battlehawks that have that. So we have a converted baseball stadium and a beautiful one. If you've ever been to Arlington Stadium, it is a beautiful park. Now, will it lay out for a good football stadium? We'll see. They're doing construction on it. People in Texas are big football fans. That's one part of the experiment. We're also using a college stadium. City of Houston is using, I don't know if I say this right, TDEC Stadium on the University of Houston's campus. I think it holds about 40,000. And since the college campus is on there, and college football season is over, and the Houston basketball program doesn't seem to be as big as it once was, like it was in the 80s, they may draw well. And Houston, Texas is a big football area. So we have NFL-sized stadiums. We have a converted baseball stadium that's new, fairly new, and a college stadium. And the 2 last stadiums we have are soccer-sized stadiums. One in LA, where they had the best weather all year long in the country, holds almost 30,000 people. And we're going to have a small one on the East Coast where it's going to be cold in DC. That holds looks about almost just under 20,000, which I think is good. I think this is the route the XFL should go and play in these soccer small stadiums. And I'm hoping New York and NYFC join forces together and build a soccer-sized stadium like that in New York City. But I think this is the route the league needs to go. For a simple reason is you lease out small stadiums, you get small lease prices, and once you sell them out, your profit margin's bigger. And if this league is going to expand, you need revenue, you need money, but you need to be in big markets, because if you're going to have ESPN, ABC, Fox, and Fox Sports 1 cover your games, you need big markets. This is where the AF failed. They were trying to avoid NFL cities. Well, it didn't work. Despite the attendance figures they had in Orlando, San Antonio, and San Diego, the rest of the league was not that good. Birmingham was okay, but you had places like Salt Lake City, and Arizona, and Atlanta, which were awful. So based on this experiment, we're going to see how the XFL expands, in my opinion. If they sell these 2 soccer stadiums out in LA and DC, I think the league will go to a soccer-sized stadium venue in a city that has one. If the league can boost attendance every year for the next 3 years, maybe they do the college thing like they did in Houston. Get smaller stadiums, but bigger than soccer stadiums. And if the league blows our mind and sells out in the big NFL stadiums, well, we may see them go to NFL-sized stadiums. So I think Vince McMahon planned this for that. I can't help but think, because he didn't just wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm tired of wrestling. I'm just going to start the XFL again. I'll hire Harvard Luck. I mean, they've done the 2-year thing here to prepare for a good launch, but I can't help but think that Vince McMahon has been researching this for the last 15 years and asking people, because for the most part, they have done everything right. Now, as for the expansion cities themselves, we're not going to know. We're not going to know until these first 3 seasons and how well they do. So, depending on how we do, us diehard football fans, and listen, the diehards like me and you are going to watch this league. We're going to go to games if it's close enough. It is the diehard NFL fan that's very skeptical for very good reasons, and the college football fan who is skeptical for very good reasons to bring them on board. Now, people have talked about Birmingham. I know my man Brett Tierce wants to see a team out in Birmingham. Well, let's talk about how Birmingham did in the old USFL. Well, first of all, they were terrible in the WFL. They didn't join anyone. None of the teams did, really. But Birmingham Stallions in year 1 of 1983, they were 7 of 12 teams in the middle of the pack, averaging 22,046 fans. Second year in the league, Birmingham was 4th of 18 teams, averaging 36,850 fans, so an increase of 16,000 by the second year. Third year, 32,065 was the average. They went down 4,000 from the year before. Now, when they had the Birmingham Fire in 1991 and 1992, their attendance was not that good. I'm sorry, it was awful. The first game they drew, 53,000. Awesome. Second home game, 16,000. Third home game, 18,005. It's about what they usually do for these games. Fourth game, 8,000. Fifth game, 31,000. Not bad. And for the playoff game against the Barcelona Dragons, 37,590. Season 2, home game number 1, 16,000. Second home game, 20,794. Third game, 11,187. Fourth game, 9,700. Fifth game, 15-1. And if you look at the AF numbers, they pretty much consistently had around 17,000 for all their games, except the one game where they had those bad tornadoes. I'm not sure if Birmingham would make a good. If they had, I know they have a new stadium building. It's going to be about 55,000 people. It's going to hold, but I think for that market, for an expansion team, I would go. If they have a soccer-sized stadium that holds about 18,000, I would go there. But I don't think Birmingham is a good choice for expansion there. Now, for you people in Memphis, the old Memphis Showboats. Let's see how they did. All right, let's see. In year 1 of the league in the USFL, they didn't have a team. Year 2, they were 10 out of 18, averaging just. Oh my God. So everyone, welcome back. Let's try this again. Same season 2 for the Memphis Showboats. They were 5th out of 14 teams in the league. Not bad. 30,948 was the average. Now, if you go to the AAF, where they're I think their next spring league team was, they averaged just over 10,000. It wasn't good. The Memphis Express wasn't real good. Not sure if playing Memphis in that big old Liberty Bowl is a good idea either. Let's try San Antonio. San Antonio in the USFL, known as the Gunslingers. In their first year in the league, which was the second year of the league in 1984, they averaged only 15,444. They were 15 out of 18 teams. Not real good. Next year, their final league of the league, they were 13th out of 14 teams, averaging just over 11,729. That was a poorly run franchise anyway. I think they were running that whole organization in a small little trailer because that's all they could afford at the time. It was really not a good thing. Now on to the World League as the San Antonio Riders. They didn't do so bad. They actually did pretty good. Remember, if you remember the World League, they played in a stadium called Alamo Stadium and only held about 22,000 people. Their first game at home, they did 18-4. Not bad at all. Second game, pathetic. 6,700 people against the Sacramento Surge. Alamo Stadium, I guess the Barcelona Dragons, which was their upset win of the year. 16,500. Again, not too bad. A 22,000 seat stadium. Their game against the London Monarchs in Week 7, 12-3. Sorry, not good enough. And their home finale against the Montreal Machine, 20,234. That is not so bad. So they kind of fluctuated. And the following year, in 1992, they went 7-3 but missed the playoffs. They did it pretty much about. They actually did a little bit better. They were averaging almost the capacity, just over 21,000 in a 22,000 seat stadium called Alamo Stadium. Now, as far as the AF goes, they kicked butt. They averaged almost 30,000 people, and the Alamo Dome was rocking. It was a good place to watch the AAF. I became a Commanders fan just because I love their fans. They came out. They were full force. I don't remember the year the New Orleans Saints played in San Antonio, even though they were not a San Antonio team. They sold out all 8 home games, if I remember right. So, San Antonio may be a good, I think is a good choice because one, the Alamo Dome, I think would be perfect for the league. And they've shown over the years the progression of how popular football has become over in San Antonio. And also, it is a much populated area now than it was years ago. So, I'm going to say name Memphis. I'm going to say definitely yes on San Antonio. And what was the other one? Birmingham. I'm very iffy on. If they had a small soccer-sized stadium, I would really have no problem. Now, San Diego. They got big old Qualcomm Stadium, but the rumor is that that the San Diego State Aztecs are looking for a new stadium. And I guess they're looking to build a football soccer stadium also, which would hold about 30,000, but give them the opportunity to expand to 55,000 if an NFL franchise came. Now, I think 55,000 is small for an NFL stadium, but whatever. We're talking about the XFL. Listen, if they were to get that soccer-sized stadium for San Diego State Aztecs in the 30,000 seat stadium, I'm going to say a big yes on San Diego. based on how the people in St. Louis are buying tickets and merchandise and excited. I think if the league proves successful the first 3 years and it's growing, I think the fans in San Diego will come out. I'm going to say yes on San Diego. If they get that stadium. If it means going back to Qualcomm Stadium, I really want to lay away from them big stadiums unless St. Louis, New York, Tampa, and Seattle prove they can fill up those stadiums. If those bigger markets can't do it, I'm not going to put a team in Qualcomm Stadium. So again, this is all a very interesting setup Vincent Van has going on between the college stadium, the baseball stadium, the Xfl Stadiums, and the soccer stadiums. Now, what other cities could we have? Well, let's look around. I mean, I think San Diego would be, like I said, if San Diego gets that soccer-sized stadium for the Aztecs, I'm all for it because it would be a natural rival right away for the LA Wildcats. It would probably be the closest rival for its distance from San Diego to LA. And you would have a 3-day weekday between San Diego, LA, and Seattle, which I think is good for the West Coast. We're going to need big markets if we're going to continue to get these big TV contracts from cities like ESPN and ABC and the Fox Sports Network. Now, people have talked about Atlanta. No, sorry, we're not going to go to Atlanta. Atlanta is a piss poor sports town. I don't care what people say. I've been to Atlanta. It's a good football town, but I would say Georgia is more of a college town more than anything. It's just what it is. I know one person keeps telling Miami. Listen, Miami's a terrible sports town. The Marlins don't draw. The Heat will draw when they had superstars. Now it's back to drawing nothing. Their hockey team doesn't draw. Even the Dolphins, their premier franchise, has been there forever. They call them one of the best in the NFL. No, sorry. Even the Dolphins are not sold out playoff games. There isn't a small stadium there. I'm not going to play a game at the Hard Rock Cafe Stadium. Big mistake. Miami is out. Philadelphia, which would automatically be a rival for both New York and Washington, D.C. All close distance, too. I think would be a good idea because they do have a soccer-sized stadium down there. So I think Philadelphia is a good option. As far as Oakland goes, no. I think the city of Oakland has told us no in Oakland anyway, which I find hard to believe considering, one, your football team, the Oakland Raiders, are leaving, and two, you lost the Golden State Warriors also. So now you're down to your Oakland Athletics. So you lost 2 of your 3 teams. Your basketball arena is empty. Your football/baseball stadium is only being used half a time a year. They're worried about games interfering with the Oakland Athletics. Give me a break. How many weeks would it interfere with the Oakland Athletics? It'd be 1 or 2 weeks, maybe 3 if there's a home game there. But this is why Oakland's in the mess they're in. This is why they lost their Raiders twice. This is why they lost the Golden State Warriors back to San Francisco. As much as I'd love to see a team in Oakland, because that city is run terribly, and the mentality there is just stupidity. Don't bother with Oakland. I don't want to put a team in that big stadium either. And the city has already told us no, so the heck with them. Chicago. I remember the Chicago Blitz. How did the Chicago Blitz do? And the USFL. In the first year, out of 12 teams, they ranked 10th, just over 18,000. In big old Soldier Field. Second year league, they were last. 18 of 18. They averaged just under 7,500 fans. That is terrible. And of course, after those 2 years, I don't think there was a third year for them. Nope, they moved away. And that was probably a smart thing to do. Now, as far as the Chicago Enforcers go, of the XFL back in 2001. Out of the 8 teams, they were dead last. They averaged just over 15,710. Now I remember the atmosphere was pretty good with those 15,000 fans, but 8 out of 8, you're telling me that 6 other small market teams did better than you. I'm not going to Chicago either, unless they want to go to the soccer stadium. They have a soccer stadium out there that holds about 25,000. If they want to do that, yeah. But as far as playing games in Soldier Field, no way. We've been down this road twice with spring football in Chicago. They love their Bears and only their Bears. I wouldn't bother with Chicago either. Now, as far as Philadelphia goes, their first league in the USFL, they're only ranked 9th out of 12 teams, averaging 18-6. Their second year in the league, they went up to number 8 out of 18 teams. So they moved up one with the addition of 6 more teams. And their average that year was 28,006. So that was an increase of almost 10,000 from the year before. So I think Philly is much like New York. It's a tough town. It's a show-me town. The Philadelphia Stars did very well in the USFL. They lost the championship game the first year. They won the championship game the second year. And unfortunately, by the third year, for whatever reason, they went to Baltimore and became the Stars. And they won the championship that year also. And while they were in Baltimore, how will they do? They were 12 out of 14, just averaging 14,000 people a game. And this is the year after the Colts left. So again, if you're going to go to Philadelphia, you can't play in Lincoln Financial Field. I would play in the soccer stadium. Now, people have talked about Connecticut going to Rensselaer Field. Rensselaer Field may not be a bad option. It's a college stadium, home of the Connecticut Huskies. Rensselaer Field holds about 40,000. It's right off I-84. Plenty of parking. Pretty easy to get to. But again, New England weather in February, March. Will the fans come out? They don't have a professional sports team. And Hartford is the largest market in the United States that doesn't have a professional sports team. So maybe it would work for that reason. I'm hoping it would, because it would only be 85 miles away from me, the same distance as MetLife Stadium, so I have 2 teams to go see, which I would love. I'm not sure playing games in central Connecticut in February, March, people would come out, but they had the stadium for it. What other sites can we talk about? I think if the XFL is going to expand, the short-term goal should be 2 more teams for a total of 10. And maybe years down the road, have 2 more teams, create 3 divisions of 4 teams, have your 3 division winners go to playoff and have 1 wild card. We don't want to expand too fast, because we saw what happened to the USFL. They went from 12 teams to 18 teams, and by the next year they lost 4. So you don't want to expand it too fast either. Arizona, no. After the way the Arizona Hotshots performed, averaging just not even 10,000 people, and the weather there is beautiful that time of year. The fans didn't come out, despite the fact they had a very, very fun team to watch. They had probably made the second best offense behind the Orlando Apollos. But how did they do in the USFL? Surprisingly, they did better than they did in the AIF. They were ranked 5th in their first league out of 12 teams, averaging just over 25,000. By the second year, though, they dropped down 6 spots to number 11 out of 18 teams. But their average was about the same, 25.5, so a difference of only 200 people. And by the third year, they went down to 9 out of 14, but their average attendance dropped down to 17.8. So, again, if you're going to go to Arizona, you would want to go to Santa Fe and play in that very small 12,000 seat indoor stadium in Flagstaff. Stay away from Tempe, stay away from Phoenix, and stay away from Tucson. Again, if we're going to make this look good on TV, start with these small stadiums. People have talked about Detroit. Again, if you're going to go to Detroit, play in that soccer-sized stadium. I think it's realistic that we keep along with soccer-sized stadiums. Alright folks, we're going to wrap this video up. Like I said, as far as expansion goes, we're not going to know. This whole experiment with the XFL, based on what I told you in the first part of the video, is going to depend how well these teams do in these venues. If the league can grow to NFL-sized stadiums, then hey, then go for it. But for the sake of developing revenue and bigger profit margins, we need to stick to these smaller college stadiums or these soccer-sized stadiums. Folks, let me know what you think. This is a long video. I try to do a lot of research on this. This is a big issue for a lot of us XFL fans. But XFL fans, I'm going to reiterate something again. You want expansion? Support the league now. I did it with the AAF. Atlanta's 19 hours away from me. Memphis was the next closest. They were about 21 hours away from me. I watched all 32 games. I bought some merchandise. The fans in the rest of the country are gonna have to do the same thing. Alright folks, give me your comments. Damaris, I hope this satisfied your expansion video. We go on all night with cities. Now there's always Columbus. Again, they have a soccer-sized stadium, which would be good. We can do this all night. Portland. But my point is, I'd rather just stick to the smaller soccer-sized stadium. And I'm hoping my team, the Guardians, eventually moves into Red Bull Stadium, which is only 7 miles away from MetLife. Alright, we'll talk to you later. We are exactly 95 days away from the XFL kickoff. We'll see you down the road.